Now
The
we
sky above
ride!
Zalthar burned green and gold.
For
Organic towers,
glory!
grown, not built, shuddered as enemy fire struck them. The city was alive and it was screaming. Walls pulsed with pain signals. Streets shifted like wounded muscle. The capital hive of the Zaltharian Empire, thought to be untouchable for 10,000 cycles, was under full attack. Inside the royal sector, alarms sang in a sharp, alien rhythm. Evacuation failure in the eastern broodwing, a commander reported. Probability of recovery, 4%. The queen stood unmoving at the center of the chamber. She was massive, radiant, her many-limbed form crowned with a living halo of light. Generals, priests, and strategists surrounded her, speaking quickly, carefully. Redirect guards to the inner chambers, one advised. Seal the wing, another said. Preserve the queen at all cost. No one said the words everyone was thinking. The princess is lost. Far below the royal chamber, in a maintenance corridor that was never meant to see battle, Elias Cade was running. He was human, clearly, painfully human. No carapace, no natural armor. Just a worn pressure suit, scorched at the edges, and a breath that burned his lungs as he sprinted through smoke-filled halls. He had been fixing a power relay when the first explosions hit. As a civilian engineer contracted by the Empire, his job was simple: keep the lights on, keep the life support system stable, and stay out of the way. That last part was now impossible. The corridor ahead buckled. The living walls convulsed, shedding fragments of hardened biostone. Elias skidded to a stop, coughing. Then he heard it, a sound that cut through the chaos. Crying, not the sharp alarm of Zaltharian hatchlings, but a softer, broken sound, afraid, small. Elias froze. His wrist display flashed evacuation orders in 3 languages. All non-combatants retreat immediately. A glowing arrow pointed toward the nearest safe tunnel. The crying came from the opposite direction. "Damn it," Elias muttered. He thought of Earth, of cities built from steel and concrete, not living matter, of the training videos that told contractors to never interfere in royal emergencies, of the fact that Zaltharian royalty was not human, not fragile like human children. Then another explosion shook the hall and the crying turned into a scream. That decided it. Elias turned and ran toward the sound. The eastern broodwing was collapsing. Support vanes, massive organic structures that carried power and nutrients, had been severed. Without them, the wing was dying fast. The air was thick with spores and smoke. Lights flickered like failing stars. Elias climbed over fallen debris, using tools ripped from his belt to pry open sealed membranes. He burned his gloves on overheated surfaces. He ignored the pain. "Hello," he shouted, his voice echoing strangely. "Hey, can you hear me?" Another crash answered him. He rounded a corner and saw the chamber. It had once been a nursery, soft walls, bioluminescent patterns meant to calm young minds. Now half the ceiling had collapsed inward, pinning a small form beneath layers of hardened growth. The Zaltharian princess. She was smaller than he expected. No glowing crown, no regal presence. Just a child, 6 limbs tangled, one wing torn, her light flickering weakly. Her eyes locked onto him, wide with terror. A human, she tried to crawl away. "No, no, it's okay," Elias said quickly, raising his hands. "I'm not here to hurt you, I'm here to help." The universal translator struggled, then clicked into place. "Help." The child's mind voice trembled. "Yes," Elias said, "I promise." Another explosion rocked the wing. The remaining ceiling groaned, beginning to give. Elias didn't waste time. He braced himself and shoved at the organic slab trapping her. It didn't move. "Okay," he breathed, thinking fast. The structure was grown, not poured. It reacted to stress differently. He pulled a cutting torch from his belt and adjusted it beyond safe limits. The heat screamed as he pressed it into the slab, carving channels to weaken the growth pattern. Pain flared up his arm as the torch backfired. The princess cried out as debris shifted. I know," Elias said through clenched teeth. "Almost there." the slab cracked. With a final, desperate heave, Elias tore it free and dragged the child out just as the chamber behind them collapsed completely. They ran. The princess clung to him instinctively, her small light dim and erratic. Elias could feel the heat of failing life support under his boots. The exit tunnel was in sight when the floor dropped away. Elias barely had time to twist his body before they fell. They crashed into a lower maintenance shaft, hard enough to knock the air from his lungs. Stars exploded behind his eyes. The world went silent. For a moment he thought he was dead. Then he felt movement. The princess was alive, shaken but alive. Elias laughed weakly. "See, told you I'd help." Above them, the broodwing finally died. The entire section sealed itself off, cutting them from the main city. Emergency lights flickered on, bathing the shaft in dim blue. Elias tried to stand. His leg failed him. "Ah, okay, that's not great," he said, assessing the sharp pain. "Likely broken. Definitely bad." The princess watched him closely. Her fear had not vanished, but something new had replaced it: curiosity. "You are injured," she said. "Yeah," Elias replied, "but you're safe, that's what matters." She tilted her head, studying him as if seeing him for the first time. "Why?" Elias blinked. "Why what?" "Why did you return?" her mind voice asked. All others fled. Elias didn't have a perfect answer, he never had. "Because you needed help," he said simply. Silence filled the shaft. Far above, in the royal chamber, the queen felt it. A sudden sharp flare in the life thread that bound her to her daughter. Not loss, not death, survival. Her head snapped up. "Locate the princess," she commanded. Sensors flooded the chamber with data. The readings were chaotic, damaged by the collapsing wing, but one signal stood out: human, alive, holding her child. The chamber fell silent. The queen's eyes burned brighter. "A life has been claimed," she said softly. The advisors stiffened. "My queen." "The ancient law," she continued. "One who saves royal blood binds fate to theirs." "But he is human," a general protested. "A fragile, short-lived species." The queen did not look away from the display. "Then fate has chosen boldly," she replied. In the shaft below, Elias leaned against the wall, doing his best not to pass out. He checked the princess for injuries as carefully as he could. "Rescue teams will come," he said, mostly to reassure himself. "They always do." The princess placed a small limb against his chest. Her light steadied. "You did not run," she said again. Elias smiled weakly. "Guess I'm bad at that." High above, the queen made a decision that would echo across the galaxy. The human who would not run had been seen, and the universe would never forget it. Elias woke to soft, pulsating light. The walls around him weren't cold metal but warm, living surfaces that seemed to breathe with the building itself. He lay on a smooth platform, cocooned in a healing gel the Zaltherians used for severe injuries. Pain radiated from his leg and arm, but it was bearable. The princess sat nearby, watching him intently. Her wings flickered faintly, her eyes scanning every move he made. She was still shaken but alert. Elias noticed the curious way she studied him, as if trying to understand a creature from another world. A sudden shiver ran through the platform. The door opened before he could ask about it. Light flooded in, and Elias instinctively raised his hand to shield his eyes. When they adjusted, he saw her, the alien queen. Bigger, brighter, and more intimidating than anyone he had ever imagined. Her many limbs moved with perfect grace, but there was an unmistakable tension in her posture. The entire chamber seemed to hum in her presence. "Elias Cade," the queen's voice resonated inside his head, not spoken aloud, but somehow perfectly understandable. "You have done what no Zaltherian would dare." Elias sat up slowly. I saw someone in danger," he said, wincing at his sore limbs. "I couldn't just leave her." The queen tilted her head. "You acted without hesitation, without fear, without question. That is most curious." Elias tried to hide a smile. Humans were trained to survive, yes, but he had not thought about being impressive. "I just did what seemed right." The princess stepped forward, placing a small hand on his. Her voice, delicate and cautious, asked, "Do you belong to us now?" Elias blinked. "What do you mean?" The queen's limbs arched, creating a protective circle around him. "In the law of my people, a life saved is never forgotten. You have saved my daughter, the heir of this empire. By the code, you are bound to us. The debt you owe is not small. You have claimed a place among the Zaltherians, willingly or not." Elias felt his stomach tighten. "Bound debt? Wait, I didn't sign anything. I didn't agree to." "You did not sign, but action is agreement," the queen interrupted gently. "You risked your life. That alone is a contract older than any empire. You have chosen loyalty by act. You cannot deny it." The words hit him in waves. On Earth, contracts were written, signed, agreed upon with lawyers present. Here it was different. Here courage was law. Action was the only signature needed. He looked down at the princess. Her small light flickered as if reflecting the queen's judgment. She said softly, "You are ours now. But it is not your burden alone. You will see it and choose." Elias didn't answer immediately. He had been trained for engineering problems, not alien legalities or centuries-old cultural debts. But he did know one thing: he would not abandon her. The fear of running had already left him. I guess I don't have much choice, do I?" he said. The words sounded weak, even to him. "You have choice," the queen replied. "But fate has a long memory. The galaxy watches this moment as well. The humans are unpredictable. Many species will question what this union of action will produce." Elias tried to absorb that. He was a human, a single engineer from Earth, and somehow he had become part of an empire centuries older than humanity. "The galaxy is watching?" he asked. "Yes," the queen said. "Not all are friendly. Many will attempt to test you. Some will wish to see my daughter harmed, to see humans fail. But you have demonstrated the potential that lies in humanity. Others will notice and some will fear it." Elias shivered. The weight of the galaxy on his shoulders was almost unbearable. "And if I fail?" The queen's gaze softened slightly. "You will not. You have human endurance. You think with flexibility and unpredictability. You do not rely solely on strength or tradition. You survive because you adapt. That is why you were chosen." The words were unfamiliar but comforting. Elias thought of his small victories on Earth, fixing failing engines, navigating storms, solving problems when no one else could. That same determination had saved the princess. Perhaps that determination could help him survive this new role as well. The princess watched him quietly. "You are different, human. Even the queen sees it." Elias smiled weakly at her. "Different, yeah, I guess I am. Not as tall, not as fast, not glowing, but maybe that's good sometimes." The queen's laughter was a low, melodic vibration that echoed through the chamber. "Good. Indeed. The galaxy may underestimate humans. That is your advantage. You act where others hesitate. You think where others follow tradition blindly. That is why you have value beyond your species. That is why I cannot release you to your world." Elias swallowed hard. "So, I'm staying." "Yes," the queen said firmly. "For now and perhaps longer, you will be trained. You will learn the ways of the Zaltherians. You will participate in our strategies, and you will be watched. You will influence our empire, and in turn, the galaxy will notice." Elias nodded slowly. The reality was sinking in. No going back. No casual exit to Earth. But he had saved a life, and that had changed everything. Somehow, that gave him strength. Over the following days, he was guided through training rooms, observation decks, and strategy halls. Every device, every panel, every glowing interface was alive in its own way, responding to thought and intention. He was shown how the Zaltherians monitored fleets, controlled biostructures, and predicted enemy movements. And he saw how fragile their reliance on tradition was. Where the Zaltherians saw only protocol and centuries of habit, Elias saw opportunity. Patterns could be optimized, defenses could be improved, lives could be saved if logic outweighed ritual. The queen watched him carefully during these exercises. "Your mind is human, yet it is not limited by fear," she observed. "You are a disruptor in the best sense. Others will call it reckless. I call it genius." The princess remained close. She began to speak more, teaching him nuances of her language, the meanings of subtle expressions, the flow of thought among Zaltherians. Elias listened and repeated, sometimes stuttering, sometimes missing subtle tones, but gradually he learned. Slowly, he realized that connection, even across species, was possible. One night, as the alien moons cast silver light across the palace, Elias sat with the princess in a quiet garden chamber. Bioluminescent plants shifted their glow with her emotions. She laughed softly at his awkward attempts to mimic Zaltherian gestures. "You are strange, human," she said, a smile in her mind voice. "But I like it." Elias smiled back. "I'm glad, that makes two of us." Above them, the queen observed from her private quarters. She did not interfere, but her mind thread hummed with approval. Humanity was strange, unpredictable, and powerful. One human had already shifted the course of her empire. Perhaps more would follow. And far beyond the palace, in neighboring systems, sensors picked up anomalies in Zaltherian defenses. Rivals noticed subtle improvements. Fleets maneuvered with new efficiency. Enemy forces hesitated, confused by tactics that defied centuries of tradition. Elias, oblivious to the galaxy's attention, continued learning, teaching, and protecting the princess. But the universe had already begun to respond to one simple truth. A human who saves a life is not just brave. A human who chooses to act changes everything. And the Queen's claim was only the beginning. The enemy fleet was unlike anything Elias had ever seen. A wave of black ships, jagged and fast, swarming like a cloud of metallic hornets toward the Zaltherian capital. From orbit, the city gleamed beneath them, towers alive with pulsing light, streets that shifted with instinctual intelligence. And at the heart of it, the queen and her daughter waited, trusting him. "Elias," the queen's voice echoed in his mind, calm yet urgent, "this is your test. They underestimate us and they underestimate you." He swallowed hard. "Underestimate me. I'm just a human." "You are more than that. Your unpredictability is your weapon," she replied. Elias scanned the tactical display, his human mind racing. The Zaltherians had strategy grids, movement probabilities, and centuries of algorithms to predict enemy behavior. But something about them was rigid. Their patterns were brilliant but formulaic. The enemy would exploit hesitation, predictability, and ritual. "All right," he muttered to himself, "let's do this the human way." The first strike came in waves. Plasma bolts screamed across space, striking defensive shields with violent precision. Zaltherian cruisers responded according to centuries of doctrine: move, counter, absorb. Many ships were damaged before they even reached firing range. Elias analyzed the situation. "They're following the standard attack algorithm," he said aloud. "We need to break it, distract them." The queen's mind voice hummed approval. "You may act." Using a combination of live feed control and predictive modeling, Elias rerouted shield energy between key cruisers, creating false weak points. He ordered some ships to retreat in unusual arcs, drawing the enemy in. Then, in a move that shocked even veteran Zaltherian commanders, he directed smaller frigates to swarm the enemy from angles never considered viable. The effect was immediate. The enemy, expecting rigid defense lines, collided with chaos. Their formations broke. Their attack stalled. The queen watched silently, intrigued. Humans were known for creativity, but few had ever redefined strategy mid-battle. Elias did not stop. He noticed a cluster of enemy ships attempting a bypass maneuver. In seconds, he calculated a series of micro-jumps using Zaltherian warp corridors, a dangerous and unconventional move. Normally, only elite pilots risked it. He issued the command. The ships vanished and reappeared behind the enemy fleet. A concentrated strike at the weakest points obliterated key enemy vessels. The Zalthirian admirals gasped. None had anticipated such fluid thinking. Human, one whispered. He is unpredictable. Elias wiped sweat from his brow. Yeah, that's the idea. Back on the palace, the princess watched him, wide-eyed and fascinated. He is clever, she thought, even more than I imagined. Her trust in him grew with every successful maneuver. The queen observed, her expression unreadable. Her mind thread stretched across the battlefield, feeling every fluctuation in strategy, every burst of energy, every damaged hull. This human, she said softly, he does not fight like any Zalthirian, and yet he wins. Indeed, the enemy was faltering. Their strikes became hesitant. Their formations splintered. Commanders who had always relied on centuries of calculated tactics now faced a force that seemed to adapt faster than they could predict. It was not brute strength, nor numbers, nor advanced technology that won the day. It was human creativity. Elias leaned back slightly, taking a deep breath as the last wave of enemy ships retreated. He could almost hear Earth's distant voice in his mind, think, adapt, survive. It had never been more relevant. After the battle, the queen summoned him to her council chamber. The room was vast, filled with advisors from every corner of her empire. They stared at him with suspicion and awe. "You have changed the outcome of the battle," the queen said, "with methods we cannot yet explain fully." One admiral, his exoskeleton glinting under the chamber lights, spoke first. "Your Majesty, he is only human. This is reckless. The galaxy may see weakness in relying on him." Elias stepped forward, his human presence small but steady. "With respect," he said, "I'm not asking for trust. I'm showing results. We survived because we acted differently, not because we followed tradition blindly." The chamber fell silent. Even seasoned diplomats and strategists could not dispute the effectiveness of his methods. "Humans," one whispered, "they act without protocol, yet they succeed." The queen's gaze rested on him. "Indeed, you have shown the value of unpredictability. Your courage, your ingenuity, your refusal to follow fear alone, it has saved lives. Not only my daughter, but the entire capital fleet. The galaxy notices." Elias nodded, trying to keep his pride in check. "I just did what needed to be done. That's all." The queen studied him for a long moment. "You underestimate the power of your example. Other species will see your success. Some will respect it, others will fear it, but none will ignore it. The human who saves life and leads with intellect has a place in this empire and in history." Days passed. The Zalthirians began incorporating some of his unconventional methods into fleet training. Smaller skirmishes saw even greater success. Intelligence reports flowed in. Neighboring systems were beginning to doubt their own predictions, shaken by outcomes no one had expected. Elias, meanwhile, continued to bond with the princess. She asked questions about Earth, its oceans, its mountains, its sky. He told her stories of simple bravery, a firefighter saving someone from a burning building, a child helping a friend, a small act that changed everything. She listened, fascinated. Your species is small but strong, she thought, and clever, and he learned more of her world. She taught him the meaning of her gestures, her language of light, the subtle emotions conveyed in a glance or a shimmer of wing. Slowly he began to understand not just the empire but its people. Their brilliance was unmatched, but so was their rigidity, and I can help them, he thought. Then the true test arrived. An enemy coalition from a distant quadrant saw the Zalthirian fleet's sudden success as a threat to their expansion. They launched an overwhelming strike, a fleet far larger than anything before. Thousands of ships, each designed for maximum destruction, approached at impossible speed. The queen convened the council immediately. "We face annihilation if we follow traditional protocols. You, human, will lead the defensive strategy." Elias blinked. This was no small skirmish. It was the kind of battle that could end an empire. He felt the weight of the galaxy pressing on him, but he had no time for fear. "We'll divide the fleet into smaller, unpredictable groups," he said. "We'll lure their main force into traps, use our terrain and warp corridors, and most importantly, we'll move differently each time. They cannot predict us if we act without pattern." The Queen nodded. "Proceed." The humans' unpredictable thinking, combined with Zalthirian power, became an unstoppable force. Fleets maneuvered with sudden shifts, strikes came from unexpected angles, and enemy ships found themselves surrounded by tactics they could not comprehend. In the end, the coalition suffered staggering losses. Ships exploded in brilliant arcs of light. Commanders who had relied on centuries of probability calculations were forced to retreat. The galaxy witnessed something new, human strategy at work in alien space. When the battle ended, the Queen appeared before him once more. Her gaze was proud. "You have proven the truth of what I said. You are not simply human. You are a force that cannot be ignored. Your actions have preserved life and reshaped the galaxy's understanding of us. And through it you have secured your place with my daughter and with me." Elias felt exhaustion wash over him. "I didn't do it for that, I did it to save her. That's all I wanted." The princess stepped forward. "And that is why we trust you," she said. Her small light pulsed warmly. "Because you act for what is right, not for power or glory. That is human strength." The Queen extended a limb toward him, a gesture both formal and intimate. "Then it is decided. Your bond with my daughter is sealed and your place here is permanent. The galaxy may debate it, but none can erase it. You are ours, by law and by choice." Elias nodded, finally feeling a sense of belonging he had never known. Not just as a human among aliens, but as someone whose courage and ingenuity had changed history. And for the first time, he allowed himself a small smile. The galaxy had tested him, and humans had passed. The battle had ended. Smoke and light from the destruction of enemy fleets lingered in the void like fading stars. The Zalthirian capital shimmered with a strange calm. For the first time in cycles, the Queen allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. Elias Cade stood at her side, his uniform scorched, a thin film of dust and ash coating his human frame. He was exhausted, bones aching, muscles tight. Yet he stood tall, shoulders squared, eyes alert. Around him, Zalthirians moved with precision, repairing ships, tending to the wounded and recalibrating defensive systems. Their movements were flawless, but something intangible had changed, something he had brought with him. The Queen approached, her limbs radiating soft light. Around her, advisors and generals murmured in anxious awe. None dared challenge her authority. Her command was absolute. Yet even they sensed that this human, fragile, unpredictable, and foreign, was unlike any other presence in the Empire. "You have done more than survive," she said, her voice a melodic echo in his mind. "You have proven your worth to my people and to the galaxy." Elias shook his head slightly. "I didn't do it for worth. I did it for her," he said, nodding toward the princess, who hovered nearby with a soft glow in her eyes. "Keeping her alive, that's all that mattered." The Queen's gaze softened as it rested on the princess. "And yet, by doing so, you have earned more than you realize. Not just life, but a bond, one that cannot be broken." A murmur ran through the assembly. The concept was ancient, an unbreakable life debt that bound one to royalty, but they had never witnessed a human enact it so flawlessly. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but few had ever earned trust so quickly, nor shifted the balance of power with a single act. The princess floated closer to Elias, her small hand brushing against his. Her light pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. "You belong with us," she thought, "because you choose to be here, because you saved me without question." Elias swallowed. He could feel the weight of that thought. He had left Earth, left his family, left the only home he had known, but here in this alien palace he had found purpose. He had saved a life, and in doing so he had changed an empire. The Queen raised a limb, signaling attention. "All of you," she said, her voice echoing through the chamber and into the minds of every Zalthirian present. Witness this human. He acted without fear, without hesitation, without thought of reward. By law, he is bound to my daughter. By choice, he stands with us. Let the galaxy know, he is ours. The room fell silent. Humans did not usually rise to such prominence in alien courts, yet the evidence was undeniable. The human had saved the heir of the Zalthirian Empire. He had led fleets to victory where centuries of doctrine had failed. And he had done it with ingenuity and courage that no alien could match. Elias felt the gaze of hundreds of eyes upon him. Some were skeptical, some were curious, some were afraid, but he did not falter. He had no words prepared, no speeches written, no claim to authority, yet his presence alone spoke volumes. The princess hovered closer. "You will not leave," she thought simply, "not because I demand it, but because you choose to stay." Elias nodded, his jaw firm. "I stay," he said aloud, louder than he had intended. "Not because I must, not because of law, but because it is right, and because I cannot imagine leaving her, leaving this life behind." The queen's light shimmered in approval. "Then it is done. Your place among us is no longer temporary. Your bond is recognized, public, and permanent." The announcement spread beyond the palace in moments. Holocom transmissions carried it across the empire, across colonies, across distant systems. Every Zalthirian vessel, every outpost, every allied species received the news. A human had saved the heir of the empire, and now the queen had claimed him. Reactions rippled through the galaxy. Some laughed, thinking the queen had chosen a strange and fragile human for sentimental reasons. Some were horrified, fearing the unpredictability of a human influence on one of the oldest empires. Some rare few were inspired, realizing that courage and intellect could defy expectation, even across species. Elias was not concerned with the galaxy's opinions. He had survived battles, navigated alien politics, and earned the trust of the most powerful being he had ever encountered. He had found purpose. He had found loyalty. And most importantly, he had found the princess, alive, safe, and trusting him completely. Days turned into cycles. Elias trained alongside Zalthirian strategists, engineers, and pilots. He introduced methods that challenged centuries of tradition. Fleets moved unpredictably. Defenses adapted dynamically. Communication lines were streamlined. Enemy scouts learned quickly that Zalthirian forces were no longer bound by predictable patterns. They moved like living storms, coordinated and lethal. The queen observed every decision, every innovation, every success. She had never seen a human mind applied so effectively to her empire's needs. It was not only strategy that impressed her, but the underlying principle. Humans acted out of instinct, empathy, and creative reasoning. Where aliens relied on history, humans relied on problem-solving. Where aliens feared uncertainty, humans used it as advantage. And the princess learned alongside him. She watched, listened, and mimicked, absorbing lessons of courage and innovation. Together, human and alien, they became a symbol of possibility, a bond of trust that transcended species, a living example of what could happen when different worlds worked as one. One evening, as the twin moons bathed the palace in soft silver light, the queen called Elias to her side. They stood in the observation deck, looking out at fleets moving in synchronized yet unpredictable patterns across the orbital defenses. "You have done more than I expected," she said softly. "Not only have you saved my daughter, but you have shown my people that even the smallest, most fragile being can alter the course of history." Elias shrugged, a human gesture of modesty. "I just did what I thought was right." The queen's gaze softened. "And that is what makes you extraordinary. You did not act for glory, for reward, or for power. You acted because it was necessary. That is human strength." The princess hovered between them, her small light pulsing warmly. "You are ours," she thought, "and we are yours." Elias smiled faintly. I suppose I am. From the observation deck, they watched as Zaltherian forces moved beyond the capital system, exploring new sectors with confidence. Word of their victories and unpredictability spread across the galaxy. Other species began to reconsider assumptions about humans, recalculating probabilities and strategies in light of this single human's courage and ingenuity. It became clear the galaxy had learned a new truth. Humans, unpredictable and resourceful, were not to be underestimated. They could think, adapt, and endure in ways that alien civilizations often could not anticipate. And when a human chose to act to save life, their influence could ripple across stars, empires, and generations. Elias, standing between the queen and her daughter, felt a quiet satisfaction. He had not sought power. He had not desired recognition. He had simply chosen to act, to protect life, to be brave in the moment that mattered most. And that choice had changed everything. The queen reached out, placing a glowing limb gently on his shoulder. "The galaxy will debate this bond," she said. "Some will resist it, some will fear it, but none can erase it. You are recognized, protected, and honored. You are ours by law and by choice." The princess floated closer, her wings brushing his arm gently. "You are ours," she repeated, the pulse of her light warm and steady, "and I trust you with everything." Elias took a deep breath, looking out at the stars. He thought of Earth, of the life he had left behind, of the family and friends he might never see again. And yet he felt no regret. Here, in this alien empire, he had purpose, loyalty, and a bond stronger than any law could enforce. "Then we move forward," he said quietly. Together, the queen's laughter, soft and melodic, echoed across the chamber. "Together," she agreed. And in that moment the galaxy understood something new. When a human saves what matters most, they do not simply earn gratitude. They earn trust. They earn loyalty. They earn a place among the stars. Elias Cade, the human who saved the princess, had become more than a hero. He had become a symbol, a living testament to the power of courage, ingenuity, and the human spirit. And the queen claimed him, openly, irrevocably, and forever. The galaxy would never forget it.